All right, it is my Tuesday night education call. So, today's topic, programming, sets and reps. Why does it matter? Why does it always look different on the program? So, if you've ever done one of my programs, you know you probably don't do the same thing week after week. The sets and reps are going to change, even if the movement doesn't. Why does that matter? Within a certain rep range, provided you are doing the work appropriately, there's a different stimulus. So if you do 3 repetitions of the heaviest weight you can do for 3 repetitions, you are challenging your strength output. Well, we're always challenging our strength output, right? Almost. If you do, for instance, 12 repetitions, there is a strength component. However, you're working much more on your endurance. What's the difference? It's muscle fiber type. Not that we have to get that crazy about it. There's one type of muscle that does very fast recruitment. There's another type of muscle fiber that can just go for days. So you might notice like you can do 10,000 steps, but your calves aren't dead. Your calves have a lot more of one muscle fiber type. But you try and do 10,000 push-ups, you're smoked. Even though you're moving your body weight in both scenarios, one muscle type provides a longer form uh, stimulus. Wrong term. One muscle type has more endurance; it can go for longer. The other muscle type can move more weight, but obviously not nearly as many times. So we're changing the preference on muscle fiber by changing the sets and reps. Now, why can't we do one set to failure with any given rep range? Technically, you can. Technically, and I'm spacing on the name, but thought it was Dorian Yates, but I'm probably screwing that up. Um, some famous bodybuilder actually did that. That was his whole thing. He would do one set to failure, but he redefined failure. It's not just, oh, I don't want to lift anymore. It's, I physically can't move my body in that plane of motion, regardless of what weight I have on there. That was his definition of failure. And he found this to be highly effective for some people. Now, here's the thing, you do one thing for long enough, your body gets used to it. Oh, so I'm not going to get the same result out of the same level of work each time. There's an old saying, you want to get a tan, so you do 15 minutes out in the sun every day for a month. At the end of that month, you've got a tan. You want to increase the tan, so you do the same thing because that's what got you a tan, except you do 15 minutes every day for the second month, your tan doesn't change because your body got used to one level of stimulus. So the concept of progressive overload is one way to change the stimulus. The other way is periodization. Fancy way of saying you change the stimulus here and there, not too frequently. There's this whole muscle confusion thing. No, you're just confused. Your muscles will get used to a stimulus after a certain amount of time. Not one workout. It has to actually get used to it first. And then you change the stimulus. And that's how you keep your minimum effective dose style training constantly producing results. Now, strength and hypertrophy are a spectrum. Okay. If you do just one maximum rep, obviously zero hypertrophy has occurred. There's not enough stimulus for hypertrophy to take place. You're just expressing strength, and there's a certain skill component. Anyone who's done powerlifting, you understand the skill component of moving something very heavy one time. Um, but I like the 3 rep range because you're less likely to do something stupid. Um, yeah, you can just send it on 1 rep and throw your form out the window. You're not going to throw your form out the window for 3 reps, or at least you're less likely. Anything's possible. But so I like 3 reps for improving strength because you can do 10 sets of 3 and you've built up enough difficult repetitions that your body is now like, all right, we need to do that better. We don't want to be this exhausted anymore. And it gets used to that level of stimulus. And then you can add weight or you add repetitions. So now you take that same weight that you just did for 3 repetitions. All right, I'm going to add repetitions until I can do 3 sets of 5. 10 sets of 5. If you're doing the math, that's a lot of repetitions. It's exhausting. So I don't go straight. All right, I did 10 by 3. All right, now next week, 10 by 5. No, that's a lot. 30 to 50 repetitions, that's not going to work. So we change the math a little bit. All right, I did 10 by 3. Well, what if I did 8 by 4? That's 2 more repetitions total and 1 more repetition per set, but you took 2 sets off. Okay, math, simple math. I suck at math, so if I can do it, you can do it. Um, so now we are progressing. The total work done is going up, even if the weight is staying the same. But all right, now we got 10 by 4. Now you can do, 8 by 4. Sorry. Now you could do uh, 7 by 5. Again, that's that little bit more. And now you're doing 5 reps per set, which is exhausting at this weight that you could barely do for 3 reps for all your sets. But you're making excellent progress. You're slowly increasing the total work done for that workout. And then you start adding sets. So you just did 7 by 5. Now you add 1 more set, 8 by 5. And then you can keep doing that until you get to 10 by 5. There are 101 ways to do it. That's one of the ways I like to do it. And that's getting you a little bit further away from strength and a little bit closer to hypertrophy. 5 is a pretty good middle point for that. It obviously it's not perfectly linear for effect size. Now, if you did that indefinitely until you got to 10 or 12 repetitions of that 3 rep max, your strength would go up. Your hypertrophy, your muscle size would go up. And you would get really good at moving heavy weight. But your joints would probably hate you, like a lot. So instead of a linear progression for total work done, you can use those same sets and reps interspersed with lighter work for the same movement. Example, I just did 10 by 3. I am hurting. Like my body is so mad at me for maxing it out. The following week, I go to the other extreme because it saves my joints a little bit, but it challenges the muscles. So now I might do 4 by 10, lighter weight, but drastically more volume, right? And you can calculate the work done so that you can actually pick a sets and reps at a particular weight that matches the total work done. Total work done is sets by reps by weight. Uh, so very, very simple, but it looks like a massive number. Um, so for example, if you did 10 sets, 3 reps at 100 pounds, well, that's 3,000. I guess it would be joules for the nerds. So 4 by 10 is only 40. So if you did 100 pounds, that'd be 4,000 joules. You're actually increasing the total work done, but that'd be the same weight. You can't do that. Brain, work for me. So let's say you cut it in half, you do 50 pounds. That's a little more likely. So 40 times 50, it's only 200 joules. You see that disparity. You see where you can do yourself some damage there with your program. You have to do a little bit of math to make sure that you're getting your work done. So, um, and I'm sure I did the math wrong somewhere, but you know what? You guys deserve the proper math. You pull up a calculator because you know I can't do it in my head. All right, so we said 10 times 3 times 100 pounds, 3,000 joules. I was right the first time. So then 4 times 10 times 50, 2,000. Yeah, I know I screwed that up somehow, but still, that's a lot less work. Two-thirds of the work done. So 4 by 10 wouldn't quite work. 6 times 10 times 50, that's 3,000 joules. So that 6 sets of 10 is a lot. You're going to have to cut that weight way down. But as long as you don't have any injuries, your joints are going to feel way better. So that's how I generally try to do it if I'm going for a long-term strength goal, but I also have a hypertrophy goal. If I only had a strength goal, I would just do more of a linear style progression with the sets and reps with the strength. Yes, you have to take deloads doing that, but if I don't have a hypertrophy goal in that case, I'm just gonna keep chasing strength. There are different techniques that I would add to all that. So limited range of motion with supra maximal, fancy word for extra, more than you could normally do, but on a limited range of motion. Anyway, we'll save other techniques for another programming discussion. Sets and reps. The math makes it all work just a little bit easier. So no guessing. You have a measurement. If it's measurable, it's predictable, right? So let's say you do 10 by 3, and then you cut the weight in half and you do 6 by 10. And then the week after that, now there's your 8 by 4. And you see how you go back and forth till you hit the middle. Well, what then? Well, now you've increased work and you've kind of got the weight the same. So you're going to hit a middle point there. From there, you just kind of like reverse direction back the way you were going and increase weight. So whatever you did for 10 by 3, when you get back to 10 by 3, you should be doing more weight because on the way down, we kept the weight all the same. You're just reversing the numbers and adding weight. So you've added sets, you've added reps. Now we're taking some of the sets and reps away, but we're adding weight. And that should continue to drive the work up. This almost never works perfectly, at least in my experience. I almost always have to play with the numbers So I'm not going to make it all the way back to 10 by 3 because I can't add enough weight to continue to increase the total work done. I'd have to continue adding some volume. But if I can't get back to 10 by 3 at enough weight to increase the work, I just increase sets until I hit that work number. So maybe on the way back, you have some extra sets, not a huge deal. Um, and I mean, work done is work done, right? But that's probably my favorite way to program. Um, but about the only people who can handle it are strength athletes. Um, and I've only got about like two of those right now. I got a whole lot of people who just want to be healthier and stronger, um, which power to them. I just love competing. But this absolutely will work for people who are not competing and just want to get ridiculously strong. Because, I mean, you can't be too strong, right? Unless you're trying to be fast. Then you can be too strong. But it is not the strength itself that makes you slow. It is taking the work away from trying to be fast. Um, uh, Sean Sean Waxman just did a podcast, and I don't remember the title of the podcast. Sean Waxman and Michael Blevins. I think it's called the Unfucked Podcast, and they spell it funny. He just had that whole conversation where he was an athlete. He was trying to be fast. He got really, really strong, but noticed he was taking some of his work away from being fast. So he got a little slower, didn't like it. And that's how he found his work balance. Um, how do sets and reps work when strength is not your only goal? You gotta you gotta find again, you have to track your progress. So bodybuilders, perfect example. Bodybuilders don't need to be strong. They need to be big. So if you spend so much time maxing out that you don't get enough volume to stimulate muscle growth, then you're not going to be as big as you can be on stage. So you have a finite amount of time and energy, and I'd say focus. That's a thing for me at least. Time, energy, and focus to dedicate to this. And 99.9% of us don't get paid to work out. It would be nice, but we don't. So we have to be very stingy about our time, energy, and focus. If we are not maximizing the results with what we have, then we're just frustrating ourselves, right? So your your program should maximize your results based off of the resources you can dedicate to achieve a certain result. Very fancy way of saying quit wasting fucking time on shit that doesn't help you get closer to your goal. And yes, I'm speed talking because I've had a very long day. I'm a little overstimulated. Um, but I'm trying to get this out because I want to help you guys with your programming because not everyone can afford my program. Not everyone is willing to put in the time required to complete my program. I I pull no punches. If you sign up with me, we are going to go hard. I am obsessed with results. If you're just looking for something to keep you busy and just to you have an idea of what to do in the gym, I got template programs for that. I Those are super cheap. You get a PDF, easy day. You want to sign up for my transformation program? You better be willing to dedicate the time. I'm going to give you all of my time, so I expect the exact same out of you. Tangent. So, if strength is your only goal, do you have to engage in hypertrophy? Not for a while. So The very, very short answer is no. If you want to be as strong as humanly possible, very, very short answer is yes. Why is that? A particular muscle size has a limit of the amount of strength it can produce. This is physics. It can only contract so hard and so fast at a given size. So eventually, you will maximize the strength of the muscle mass that you have. It takes a very long time for most people, unless you're some genetic freak. And if you are, I hate you. You will notice there are very, very few small looking people who are crazy strong. Those are the genetic freaks. There are an awful lot of very, very large people who are crazy strong. Why? They had to get bigger to get stronger. They found the limit. Now, do you have to run out your strength limit before you go to hypertrophy? No. You can tailor your own. I can tailor your program if you want, but the program can be skewed so much that maybe the predominant focus is strength work. And then you have a little bit of hypertrophy work, just enough to stimulate without making you so sore that you can't, do your strength work in your next at your next session. It's the opposite of what bodybuilders do exactly. Now, why do bodybuilders engage in some strength work? Everyone loves to uh, criticize Ronnie Coleman, and I just saw something about him. I wish the best for him. I hope he heals up quick. Nothing but love, brother. Appreciate what you do for the sport. Um, but everyone likes to criticize him for going so heavy all the time. Number one, it's fun. And number two, no one else brought that package to the stage. I don't think anyone since has brought that package to the stage. There is a reason he looked as wonderful as he did on that stage. He had the proper focus on both hypertrophy and strength. Being able to move ridiculously heavy weights allowed him to improve his hypertrophy to such a degree that he was untouchable for I can't remember how many years now, but he was the greatest because he didn't just dance with pink dumbbells. You know, everyone likes to say, yeah, 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 low weight, high reps to build muscle mass. Not exactly. It actually has to be a challenge. You have to be muscle failure adjacent for a large portion of the time. When I say large portion, I mean most of your workout, you should be cutting that line. Like maybe I could do one or two more. And you can't do that with everything. If you're doing compound movements, you can't get as close to failure safely, repeatably. So that that's why you see so many bodybuilders go to machines because you can get close to failure or to failure with minimal risk. But Ronnie Coleman was not afraid to do those compound lifts and do them heavy. And imagine, if you will, the amount of tension you can produce or you can create within the muscle, regardless of muscle size. The weight you're using has to create sufficient tension to stimulate muscle growth. And yes, it's all relative to muscle size and how it can operate. But imagine the compounding effect of having big muscles and moving ridiculously heavy weights. There's so much tension that you can produce that the stimulus is that much higher. Yes, there is a point of diminished returns. Nobody's saying there isn't. But I'm saying I'd rather lift heavier than I should, close to failure, than lift too light and never really get there. That's my philosophy on sets, reps, strength, and hypertrophy. Um, Definitely rambled on longer than I should have today, but I hope you all got something out of it. If you did, please like, follow, share, comment, all the things. Let me know. What else are you guys looking for? What are your questions? Where are you guys stuck? And shameless plug, if you are stuck, I offer a free 30-minute evaluation. What are you doing? Where are you trying to get? And I'll tell you what you're doing wrong and how to make progress, give you next actions that you can take right away and start making some progress. If you're interested, follow the link in my bio and let's get you squared away. Thank you guys. Keep your family health and fitness. Be well and be strong.